In the meantime, I will pray us in. All right, I'm placing my hands on my heart, taking in that deep breath of love and gratitude. So grateful for this time to come together with my beautiful brothers and sisters. Grateful for those that are here now and those who may listen later. Grateful for the teachings of A Course in Miracles and the opportunity to come together to read them to each other, to share our insights and our ahas from them, to share our challenges about them, to fully embody the teachings of A Course in Miracles so that we can live it and we can share that love that we get to experience through living it with everyone. So grateful for our willingness, for our opportunity to say yes to being a light in this world, to shining the light on any blocks that we may have to love. Grateful for all of our teachers here in the invisible and those in the heavenly realms as well. We ask that they all join us, surrounding and supporting us during this call and as we go through our days. And we're grateful that we get to share the benefits of our own healing and expansion with everyone because we are one. In grace and gratitude, we let it be and know that it is done, and so it is. Amen. So welcome everybody. So this week we start at the beginning. At the very beginning with the introduction. And I feel like I didn't even bother highlighting anything in the introduction because I could highlight the entire thing because it really just kind of sums it up. And yeah, nothing real can be threatened. Nothing unreal exists. Herein lies the peace of God. Would anyone like to share anything specifically that they got from the reading this week? Any insights or challenges? Go ahead, Penelope.
I mean, I just love this list of miracles. It's a miracle in itself, this list, I think. Just picking out 36, 37, 38, 39. Miracles are examples of right thinking, aligning your perception with truth as God created it. A miracle is a correction introduced into false thinking by me. It acts as a catalyst. So I'm just kind of like a lot of 36, 37, 38, 39. And what it reminded me of, and I just think it's such a beautiful example, is that when I write the forgiveness letters, I'm allowing Spirit to speak through me.
Mm-hmm.
And Spirit is doing exactly what it's saying in these ones I've just given the numbers for, because it's allowing, it separates the truth from illusion he separates the truth from illusion by his ability to perceive totally rather than relatively. Miracles dissolves error. So there's so much in there, and it's just such a brilliant reminder that it's when I write the forgiveness letters, I get to the truth, the false beliefs, the attachments, etc., and Spirit is allowed, comes through when I do the letters. So maybe not the best way of explaining it, but hopefully you've all got what I'm trying to say.
Yes, perfect. Thank you, Penelope. Yeah, it's in doing the work. It's the practicality of actually doing what the teachings say. Yeah, absolutely. Anybody else? Diane, go ahead.
I just wanted to say how much I enjoyed reading all these miracles. And just the whole experience of reading them was so beautiful. Um, and I loved what you said, Penelope, and I think I'm kind of saying the same thing here, but it's the Miracle 22, which is the second part of it. You believe that what your physical eyes cannot see does not exist. And if I can take anything to heart, it's that, if I could, it's that sentence that I truly want to just kind of like tattoo it in my brain and in my mind, that I've got this always at my fingertips, because I really think that's a huge focus point of Jennifer's, in that she encourages us to work in the unseen world. And I get, very, very caught up. I know, like everybody, very caught up in what I'm truly seeing. And it becomes discouraging and upsetting for me, as opposed to being able to see more with divine eyes, which, I mean, that's like, I can't really do that anyways, but just that notion of seeing or trusting, having faith and trust in the unseen world, and what exists and what is being done in the unseen is maybe not a reflection of what's going on. And then on 35, it says, miracles are expression of love, but they may not always have observable effects. And so those two things together for me, it's like a promise. This is the promise that there are things that exist that I cannot see because I got this human body, these human eyes, and I have to really, I don't have to, but I truly want to have faith and trust that that what I see is like the very tip of the iceberg, and most of it isn't real anyways, or probably all of it. And so there's this vast amount that is present that I just have to trust is there because I can't see it. So I really want to focus my prayers this year more around, as Jennifer talks about, letting go of the outcome, which is the observable effects that I want, which is all that control and manipulation. I want things a certain way in my life, and to let go of that, and just to let go of that. The observable effects are not important, and I want them to become less and less and less important in my life. Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks, Diane. That really deeply hit my heart. Thank you. Yeah. Less of what I want, more of what I'm being guided, more of God's will. Thank you. Good reminder. Anybody else have anything they'd like to share? Go ahead, Carla.
So I was listening to Diane and my eyes were attracted to 31. Miracles should inspire gratitude, not awe. You should thank God for what you really are. The children of God are holy, and the miracle honors their holiness, which can be hidden but never lost. And so I guess what came up to me is that how often we look at appearances of what we do, what's happening, whatever, all the world we look. I know I have. I thought appearances were showing me the truth, that really that appearances are something else I won't get into. But what I'm saying is that how often I have said, oh, I can't do that. Oh, I'm not whatever. It's something I would like to become, but this says we are. We really are. And instead of saying that I'm not something, be grateful that whether I'm aware of it or not, whether I feel it or not, whether I see it or not, it is true. And to live in the gratitude that I can't change truth. Truth is always true. No matter what I think, ego thinks really, what I say, what I see, truth is truth. So.
Thank you, Carla. Reminds me of the radical trust that Jennifer and David Hoffmeister were talking about last week on our radio show. Radical trust, even when we can't see the effects of our work, of the miracles, just trusting that it's happening anyway. Thank you. Anybody else? Tim.
Maybe muted. Oh, you unmuted.
Gotcha.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
You know, it's interesting. It was interesting to me in rereading this section, which is, it's great to be able to start right at the beginning. I like that. But it was interesting in rereading this that it, you know, it mostly doesn't say what a miracle is. You know, I mean, so many writings would start, you know, normal writings would start off, well, this is what a miracle, and basically it's the principles of miracles, and so it really says more about like what the process of miracles is, what the result is, the characteristics, et cetera, rather than trying to sort of close it in and define it. But there, maybe that makes some sense. But anyway, there are a number of them, of course, that kind of speak to me. But I'll kind of focus on here number 37 on page, well, it's page 5 of my book. But and it says, a miracle is a correction introduced into false thinking by me, Jesus, the voice of Jesus, and it acts as a catalyst, breaking up erroneous perception and reorganizing it properly. So I think that's kind of cool because, you know, we talk about, you know, that shift a lot from ego to spirit, and, you know, from when we recognize we're in error or making a mistake or, you know, off on the wrong track in some way, you know, that it's a, you know, we've decided wrongly, or we have an error in our perception. And so, you know, just the correction of that error, that correction of false thinking itself is the miracle. So a form of the miracle, I guess. And I just thought that was kind of nice to read that, you know, that to come back to that and see that it's, yeah, when we stop ourselves, and, you know, that's a process, a miracle, I think, that we've changed that false belief or false thinking, and that the miracle is a part of that, to correct that perception, to move from ego back to spirit. Anyway, that's, yeah.
Yeah. Thanks, Tim. Yeah, I kind of like that it doesn't really explain what a miracle is, because I feel like you said, it would just kind of box it in. Um, and a miracle is just any time that we change our mind, then it's like you can't define a miracle, like you can't really define love. It's something that you have to experience. And it can be as small as finding a parking space in a really busy parking lot, or healing cancer. There's no um like he says at the very beginning, there is no order of difficulty. One is not harder or bigger than another. They're all the same. All expressions of love are maximal. So, so to me, that's really what it is. It's just a miracle is an expression of love.
Yeah, it seems to me, that now that anytime we're disturbed, something is upsetting outwardly, or disturbing thoughts or worries or whatever it might be, anytime we have, some kind of discomfort, ranging to sheer terror or whatever it might be. I mean, but any kind of disturbance, and we make that, we make some kind of a shift from that fear, to a peaceful state, a loving state, um, something that's in harmony, something that's in joy. That's a miracle.
Yeah.
It's like the sort of like the little nitty gritty nuts and bolts of the miracle to make that move.
Yeah. And sometimes it can feel big, and other times we hardly even notice it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you for that. Anybody else have anything to share?
Well, Linda, it's Jackie.
Hi, Jackie.
I'm so glad you're doing this. I am at work, and I thought it was a less busy day, but it's becoming a busy day. I work for an assisted living community, and I'm the community relations coordinator. So people
Oh, wow.
come in my door sometimes all day long. But I've been listening. I found A Course in Miracles. The gentleman that I've been listening to for so many years, that reads the daily lesson, the daily, whatever it's called, the days of the year.
David Hoffmeister?
No, not him. It's a different guy.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. Anyway, I've been reading it on and off since 1997. And I found this on YouTube. He read the entire text front to back. It's a 26-hour reading. And now I'm just listening to it like any chance I get. And it's pure heaven. And what I got this morning about the miracle, it's like the whole thing's a miracle. And when we're just steeped into this whole experience of all of life as a miracle, then miracles cease to be miracles. They're just how it is.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just so cool. So cool. Yeah. So just thanks for doing this.
Yeah. Thank you, Jackie.
Mm-hmm.
Glad you can join us, even if your day
Yeah.
is.
Thanks. Well, I'm going to listen as long as I can, but I'm going to put you on mute.
All right. Thanks.
Okay. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Anybody else?
Well, I just came on and I was glad to hear that I'm not the only one who couldn't really describe what a miracle is after reading all this. It's kind of nebulous, and I mean, I understand in one context, but I found the reading very comforting, because it seems like no matter what we do, we really can't make a mistake, and God kind of has our back.
Absolutely. Thank goodness. Because I know from myself, in my own experience, at times I just feel like I'm just a bumbling idiot walking through this world. It's like, what are you doing? What are you saying? Yeah. So thank goodness. Thank goodness every once in a while I get to come up for air and realize, oh yeah, I can make a different choice. I can make a different choice. Glad we have these reminders.
Did you all read the preface as well, or just the shorter introduction?
I just read the shorter introduction. I've read the preface before, but
Yeah.
find something in the preface that really spoke to you, Morgan?
Well, I just, when I only read the short introduction for this particular ACIM study group, but I had read the preface before and I was flipping back through it. And I just remember when I first read it, how the things that I had highlighted in here, it was very just calming and reassuring after kind of growing up in the Southern Baptist Church and kind of breaking away from that, and just kind of, when you feel so connected to Jesus and spirit, and then you find yourself floundering because you don't understand how, if God is love, then this, and this, and this are true, and the Bible, that kind of thing. So I just remember reading this preface, and it talks about how truth is unalterable, eternal, and unambiguous. And I just love that, because there is so much ambiguity in the Bible. And it was just sort of just reading the preface, I just remember, because I had some resistance, oh, is this, I don't know, blasphemous, or is this real? Is this really Jesus talking? And just reading the preface, I just felt all of that sort of melting away. And I recognized, it's just very clear. There's no ambiguity. There's no, there's no double standards, and it puts the blame for, not blame, because I don't know, God's not an angry God, but for all the effed up stuff that we experience in this world, it shifts that from being God's fault, a mean, cruel God, to our fault. And I don't know, it was very it made me excited to dive in and start studying the course.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's that responsibility.
Mm-hmm. Which felt a little bit egoic at first, but then when you get into it, it makes so much more sense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I had such a resistance to responsibility in the beginning, and because I thought it meant that I'm blaming myself, or I'm being blamed, or I should feel shame. And I'm glad that I've kind of resolved that and realized that that's not the truth, that I'm not being punished for anything.
Right.
This is, whatever is happening for my good. And even if I can't see it or feel it in the moment, having trust that is true. Because it feels right, when I say it, that I trust that everything is for my good. It just feels right in my heart, I know that's the truth, even if it doesn't make sense in the moment.
Right.
Yeah, thank you, Morgan. Anyone
Does all
else?
this get easier to accept as we go on and we keep practicing these principles every day?
For me, it has. I mean, but it's like waves. There's days when it feels like it's super easy to understand and practice and live. And then there's other days where I just want to throw the book across the room and, and stomp into my bedroom and slam the door shut, So I feel like it does get easier most of the time, but there's still moments.
I find that when I start to feel discouraged, nothing's really changing or shifting, and I just start to feel like I'm spinning my wheels, then I'll get a gentle reminder from Spirit of oh, look how that didn't upset you at all. And that used to drive you crazy. And that used to like send you like down the rabbit hole of just anger and distress. And you're not even faced bad at all. Like just those gentle reminders, like, yes, it's working. Yes, you're doing it. And they seem to come like always right on time.
Yes, thank goodness. Again, there's the miracle. You know, we may not call it a miracle in that moment, but that's absolutely a miracle where we can see and feel that. Robin.
Oh,
there we go.
Thank you. Linda, thank you for just helping us all feel we feel these dualities, and one day we're just blissing out and the next day we're just so fed up with the whole thing. Mm-hmm. So, but first of all, I just want to say, just generally reading the preface and the introduction and the miracles was so loving and just comforting. And yesterday on a prayer partner call, I noticed that my prayer partner was praying about the promises. And oh my goodness, it just lifted me up. And I just feel like so much of this is the promises. And I want to remember that word just popped out, like I'm becoming aware of it.
Yeah.
And that we can live in the promises, that we are well loved, and that we are whole and complete and perfect, and that the light is in us. And I don't know what else to say about that except that word and the tone of the prayer was so uplifting and inspiring. I got something, another tool to go to and say, oh, remember, God promises that you're going to be okay. And I mean, it's a big deal for me. And I will say over the years, I mean, Linda, last week, and I hate to be redundant, but you know, the Course says this is a redundant study because that's where you're at and you need to hear it over and over again. So
exactly.
Last week, I think in class, you shared about the manifestation in your life, you know, concerning the troubles, you know, and the caretaking of your husband and your mother, and that how I mean, we have seen the waves just knock you down before you can get up again, and we all are having these experiences. So it's not just you out there by yourself. I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm glad I'm not the only one. And when you shared that, you said, even though the manifestation is not looking good on the outside, I am the happiest I've ever been. And then you repeated it and you said, I am happy. And it just like, I had been going through recognizing how meaningful my life is. And I had gotten that myself. And then I was with my daughter who said, Mom, I am so happy. You have such meaning in your life. And that, you know, sparked. And then the very next day you're sharing about being happy, and I just equated that to the meaningfulness. So yes, Deborah, you know, it feels like I have not, that I'm a slow learner, I'm a slow bloomer, I'm not getting it, but I am getting it, and we all are getting it. We're all where we are. And if you just stick to it, every day I get up and I have blessings galore. It's just a few, but they're a galore from me. And from my past life, I can see God stepping in and taking care of stuff. I'm like, thank you, God. And it's just so, it's so lovely. It is just so, it's so heart opening. And I mean, in any moment too, you know, I wake up in dread. I'm still in that place But much more quickly, I sit up in bed and I'm like, all right, come on and thank you, God, before I put my feet down. And I've learned that from other people. And there's still a lot that's hard, or it feels hard, or seems hard. But this, A Course in Miracles, and especially I am so grateful. The learning is just, I feel like maybe I'm starting to accelerate.
Yeah.
I would like to think that. Thank you.
Yep. We've come a long way, baby. We both have. Go ahead, Carla.
Just say that the first 2 years I downloaded the class and wouldn't even come on. And so I have come on.
Yep, you're all in now. Yeah.
Okay, also, my eyes were drawn to again, number 15. I didn't read the whole thing. I just read, each day should be devoted to miracles. So I stopped and I'm like, so each day, each moment, really, not should, because I want to let go of that, but is devoted to looking for the miracle. Because how can we ever perceive the miracle? We don't have to perceive the miracle. They're still happening. And to look for the miracle. So each experience, I know my pattern, one of my patterns has been giving it meaning to situations and going, oh, this is good or bad or whatever. So whatever is happening, and that's look for miracle, and it's really feeling the miracle, really, because you don't have to see it, because we already talked about that, to see it's a feeling. Been talking about feeling happy. That is a miracle. Everything is a miracle. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think I've read like an Einstein quote that said something about that. You know, either everything is a miracle or nothing is. Go ahead, Diane.
Just listening to Robin and Carla share, what came to my mind was that on 19 it says, miracles therefore reflect the laws of eternity, not of time. And thinking of that concept of, you know, we have like 3 steps forward and 2 steps back, or one good day and one, you know, just the way we all kind of are flip-flopping a bit, which I am as well. And I just will briefly share, I had this experience on the weekend when I was out with a couple of friends walking, and something blurted out of my mouth, and it was really insensitive, uncaring thing to say. And the minute it came out of my mouth, I don't even know where it came. I could feel the whole tone of all of us. And I caught myself right away. I said, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. And I apologized and everything. So, but the thing that happened was, normally I would feel so much guilt and shame over having made a vast error of judgment and said something that I didn't really mean. And I think the end result was hurtful. And normally I would like really beat myself up over the fact that I kind of tripped up. And they were both like, oh, that's okay. Yeah, no, you know, but I just was able to go into self-forgiveness quicker than I would have done in the past. Like a few years ago, I could have beaten myself up for a day, for 3 days, even for a week of like, how could you have said that? And I would have repetitively gone over it in my mind. And so I was able to release it, and it kind of made me think about how A Course in Miracles, it saves us time in ways that I might not even be aware of the amount of time that's being saved for me. But just this one little incident, I could really visually see, I saved myself a lot of grief and heartache. It's not just the apology. I don't find the apology hard. I find the self-forgiveness afterwards hard, because I have a bad habit of beating myself up and going into guilt and shame and unworthiness and just that whole train that I get on. So I was able to not get on that train, which I think was a miracle. It saved me a lot of time, and it reflects the laws of eternity, not of time. And this has come out, I can't find them right now, but in other writings in this miracle section, about how these things are operating not in time and space. And so I think they're operating outside of my awareness. And so I'm not even really clearly seeing all that's happening. But I trust in that I am saving time, and hopefully saving lifetimes as well. Thanks.
Yeah, amen to that. Saving the lifetimes, absolutely.
One can only hope.
Right? Penelope, and then Carla, go ahead.
Diane, this is one of them that I think just sums up what you've just said. 47, the miracle is a learning device that lessens the need for time. It establishes an out of pattern time interval, not under the usual laws of time. But just even the first sentence, I think, is beautiful in the sense that the miracle is a learning device. And when the other way that I interpret that is, there's a lesson in every moment of every day, and even just recognizing. So it might not necessarily be like a huge insight or aha or realization, just even saying that I'm judging or I'm criticizing, whatever it is, and I hand it over each time I do it, then I'm lessening. It's that that learning device is operating, and it's lessening the need for time. And I just think that speaks so beautifully and sums up, Diane, what you said. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Penelope. Carla, go ahead.
Okay. So I'm really grateful for your share, Diane, because it reminded me of something that's brought to my awareness. Is that when I used to, I probably still do, but more commonly, to judge myself and all the errors. It seemed like I was aligning with my awareness. And I realized, and this has shown me that it's just an error. It's not even real, but I make it real by my judgment of what I'm doing, that I'm giving it whatever, the negative energy, whatever. It's in a sense, I can't make it real, but I can make it seem real, because I am real. The energy that I am is real. And so when I was shown that and realized, I was really more willing to, because what is forgiveness? It's making what seemed real unreal. The realization is not even anything, really. It's nothing. And nothing, even times a billion, infinity, is still nothing. So I'm glad you shared that. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you, Carla. Morgan, go ahead.
Yeah, Diane, I think that your share really spoke to a lot of us. I'm sure we all can relate to that experience. And I've been rereading back through Disappearance of the Universe because I read it, I audio read it. So now I'm like actually going back and reading the hard copy. And last night this sentence spoke to me. It said, the difference between your mistakes and the mistakes of enlightened beings rests in their ability to practice true forgiveness. They realize that if the mistakes of others should be forgiven immediately, then so should theirs. So you're on the right path, evidently. And I have similar experiences, with my husband, because that's the closest relationship I have. So whenever I find myself saying something hurtful or unkind or unloving to him, I usually immediately regret it and feel all those emotions like the pit in the stomach and, oh no, why did I say that kind of thing? But it's a wonderful opportunity to put Holy Spirit or Jesus to the test on his promises that he will undo the consequences of my wrong decision if I let him. So it's been kind of a fun experiment to practice immediately handing it over and just seeing it in action, because I see these situations that in the past would have turned into big blow up, knock down, drag out fights, just kind of melt away into nothing. And it's really a beautiful experience. So, and then I wanted to share 2 miracle principles that your share, Diane, reminded me of. It's 44 and 45. The miracle is an expression of an inner awareness of Christ and the acceptance of his atonement. A miracle is never lost. It may touch many people you have not even met and produce undreamed of changes in situations of which you are not even aware. So that's all. Thank you for your share.
Thank you, Morgan. Yeah, when you read that, Diane, that's one of the principles that I highlighted as well. And when I read it, I'm on the wrong page. That's why I'm looking at it and I'm like, what? What I felt like is that time, like we're all on the same, so we're one. Okay, I don't know, I think what happened was I read it and then I got this image. I went to the lake yesterday because we had an unusually warm day, and we've been in an ice box for the last week, and it was in the 50s yesterday. So I went to the lake, and she's loaded with giant ice dunes that are melting away. And right on the edge of the shore underneath the ice, you can see the waves are still coming up. And when the waves come up, they're not coming up in a perfectly straight line. They're coming up in this beautiful undulation, wavy line. And I thought, like, that's us. So that's like, I may not quite get to the shore at the same time Robin gets to the shore, and the same time Penelope gets to the shore, and the same time Carly gets to the shore, but we're all getting to the shore. And at the same time, I'm not getting to the shore at the same time in each and every moment. So I don't know, it made me feel like there really is no comparison, and we really can't do it wrong. And we absolutely are promised the miracles. We absolutely are promised that we are getting to the shore in each and every moment, whether we see it or feel it or have evidence of it or not. It just felt like that's how life is supposed to be. It flows and ebbs. And yeah, I don't know. I felt it when I was reading this, and I just got that image of the waves coming from underneath the ice, and this whole group, and and life in general. And yeah, it's a flow. I don't know. I hope that made sense. It felt good when I thought it. Anybody else have anything else like to share? Go ahead, Robin.
Well, I would just say that that was such a beautiful metaphor, and the fact that you were there and you felt it and experienced it, and what you experienced was not only the flow but the ebb. So that makes me feel better. Thank you.
Yeah, and it was a peaceful experience in both directions.
Yeah, I get that too. Yeah. Thanks, Linda.
Thank you, Robin. Anybody else have anything they'd like to share about the reading or anything else? All right. Well, I was thinking I would really like to, let's just continue on. So next week, continue in chapter 1 with Revelation, Time and Miracles, and Atonement and Miracles. And I think that's enough for 1 week. Because it's a lot to absorb, all the principles. I feel it's it really summarizes the entire book. So we may talk more about those again next week as well. So does anybody have anything else that they would like to share before we close out?
Linda, can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead, Rachel.
I am new to the Miracles course, and I'm having to step away here. But I just wanted to thank you, first of all, for offering this, and thank you to everybody, too, for sharing today, because I finally think I'm on the right path. So thank you, and I'll see you next week.
All right, thank you, Rachel. I'm so glad you got to join today. Welcome. Tim.
Yeah, I just wanted to comment that I appreciate, Linda, what you had to say about the waves, because that's a beautiful image, and I think we see, the principles of miracles reflected a lot in nature.
Mm-hmm.
And I can just imagine you going out to the lake shore and watching those waves come in from beneath the ice. That was very nice. Thank you.
You're welcome. Yep, she's a great teacher for me. Lake Erie. Yeah. Anybody else have anything they'd like to share? Diane.
I'll just share one more thing. When you were describing, I love your metaphor as well, Linda. It really thought it was beautiful. And what I saw in what you were saying was just the connection. Like some waves were coming and some waves were going. And it just kind of reminded me a bit of this community and how I feel like, sometimes I'm helped along by others, and sometimes I help others along. Like the waves, we are all connected. One of us is bringing the other forward all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so this group is a lovely example of that.
Amen. Yes, I agree with that. Absolutely. Yeah, and that's the one of the other principles that I highlighted, where it says a miracle is a service. It is the maximal service that you can render to another. It is a way of loving your neighbor as yourself. You recognize your own and your neighbor's worth simultaneously. And I've felt in my heart and said outwardly to people for years, anytime you're feeling really low, do something nice for somebody else and you'll be lifted right up. Works every time for me. So yeah, I appreciate you all being here. This is, man, this is like one of the highlights of my entire week is when we get together. So I thank you so much. Anything from anybody else before we close? Robin, go ahead. Oh, we're canceling each other. There we go.
I was waiting. So just to follow up, in the last page of the introduction, it says, our brothers need us and we need them. Without us, they would lose their way. And without them, we could never find our way. So, thank you.
Our brothers are our salvation. It says it in the book over and over again. Relationship is our healing tool. Yeah. Thank you, Robin. Anyone else? Alrighty. Well, thank you, everybody. Well, I guess my cat's hungry. He's standing here staring at me. So time to wrap it up, he's saying. All right, so I'm doing the, I'm on lesson 13. Oh, Robin.
I'm sorry, Linda. Linda, the name of the book that you always end our class in, The Pathways of Light, I couldn't find a way to get it. I was wondering, could you give us the author or the publisher? I went on Amazon.
Yeah, it's not a book.
Oh, it's not a book.
No, it's just a website.
You look like you're always reading a book.
Well, it's my tablet.
Well, no wonder. It's a website. Okay. Well, thank you.
I'll post the link in the in our chat, in our WhatsApp chat.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Wow.
All right, so lesson 13. A meaningless world engenders fear. In this world, it seems very weak to say, I don't know what anything means. We have spent our whole lives learning what everything means, and if we don't know, we are considered ignorant. In this lesson, we are learning to do the opposite. We are learning that it is important to step back and not give meaning to everything we see. We are learning that this stepping back and not giving meaning is the most valuable thing that we can do now. We are learning that it is our pathway to freedom. We are learning that it is important to undo all our past learning by merely stepping back from it and leaving an empty space. This is an important part of disidentifying from the ego, or disidentifying from the belief that we have separated from God. Being in competition with God is indeed frightening. We can give up the battle. Seeing the meaninglessness of the world is a very important step. It requires constant stepping back, consistent stepping back from all we learned in the past. It is worth the effort. The more we do it, the easier it gets. Detachment from all the meaning I have given the world is my pathway to freedom and happiness. On the empty slate made clean with willingness to step back, the reality of love has a chance to enter. With the reality of love comes peace and joy. These blessings that return with stepping back from giving meaning to everything make it worth the effort. This process of undoing is worth the effort. It doesn't seem like I am in competition with God. I'm not likely to say it to anyone. I've got this competition thing going on with God, but there are some telltale signs that this is true. I'm aware that in some areas of my life, I'm quite comfortable with saying, I am willing to follow God's will, but there are other areas where I have a definite agenda. I am willing to follow God's will, provided it looks like what I want it to look like. You might call it a half-hearted willingness. In still other areas, I'm not interested in even finding out what God's will is. because I will that his will might mean that I have to give up, or because I believe that his will might mean that I have to give up something that is important to me. Here it is most clear that I am in competition with God. The belief is that if I accept God's will, I will lose. God wins, I lose. I win, God doesn't get his way. That's competition. I see now that any time I believe God's will would require that I lose, I must be in competition with God. When I win, I get to keep my roller coaster emotions of terror, moments of ecstatic happiness, sadness, satisfaction, frustration, guilt, and occasional periods of discomfort that I am always afraid will not last, some surprise. The Course tells me that God's will for me is perfect happiness, but because I have identified with the ego thought system, I have a faulty image of what happiness is, and I believe that if I lose that image, all is lost. That's terrifying. This is why this lesson says to note carefully any signs of overt or covert fear, which the idea that I am in competition with God may arouse, and do not dwell on it except during the practice periods. At this point, it appears that if I accept this statement as true, it would completely obliterate me. There would be nothing left. It is difficult at this point to see that what it would really do is open the door to indescribable happiness and a peace that cannot be disturbed. Clearly, the Course recognizes where we are in our thinking and does not ask us to make a giant leap over what we perceive as an insurmountable chasm. It leads us gently, step by step, to retrain our minds, to see that we really do want the will of God because it will bring us perfect happiness. The Course is patient with us. So it seems like a good idea to follow its example and be patient with ourselves. Let it be sufficient today to recognize that a meaningless world engenders fear, and trust that we are led by love to return to love. And so it is. Thank you, everybody. Y'all
Thank
next.
you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Linda.
Thank
Bye,
you,
everybody.
Love you all.
Bye.
Thanks,
Bye.
everybody. Thanks, Linda.
You're welcome.